to our delete project workflow now. So I'm going to move it over to in progress and open it up. All right, so we need to be able to delete a project, a feature, a user story, and a task, okay? Because these are all interconnected by foreign keys, it's going to be a little bit complicated in terms of queries, but we will figure it out. I think I'm going to start with task. All right. And I'm going to go over to my wireframe design and check it out. Looks like we have a delete icon that's added on the task box. So I'm going to head over to my task box and add my delete icon. All right. So we've got lots of tasks for us to delete. Let's go ahead and add a delete icon button right here. All right, so I am going to add it to my imports, delete icon, and then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to find after the status, and I'm going to say icon button. All right, and I will say aria label, and we're going to say delete task, and then we will say icon delete icon. Perfect. That looks great. Okay, so now we can go ahead and check off this add delete icon to task box. Okay, and when we want to create an on-click function that sends the request to the API to delete the task. So we will do that now. Okay, so we are going to want to essentially copy the update task from this get the token to doing all of the requests. So we're going to copy that, and then we're going to make a function down here, const delete task, and paste it in. All right. So now we can go and edit as we need to. So getting the token from local storage, yep, we need to do that because we want this route to be protected. We should not be deleting people's tasks if they are not logged in. So we're going to say delete task. All right. We just need the task ID to delete the task. Okay. The user ID will come from the token. I'm not really sure, we're not updating a name when we come back, so we can go ahead and get rid of that. And I'm not really sure what we're going to do with the setting, what we're returning yet. So I'm going to say figure out what we want to return. So I'm going to actually comment this. I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to just console.log response and response.data. Okay. We are not doing anything with the field, so we can get rid of that, and we can change this to from updated to deleted. And change this to some normal quotes, which isn't super necessary, but okay. So we are saying that we're getting our token, we're making our access request. If we get an unauthorized error, then our session is expired and we're going to navigate back to the login page. Otherwise, we're just going to do a generic there was an error deleting your task. Please try. Okay. Perfect. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to add the onClick function here. OnClick, we want to delete task. Perfect. So we need to go ahead and go to the back end now because we don't have this route. So you can see if I click on delete, it's just going to give me an error because that route doesn't exist. So let's go ahead to our auth controller, and we are going to, I'm just going to copy this function because it's pretty similar and add it here. So we're not deleting the user, which by the way, we will need to update as well now because our tables have gotten quite a bit more confusing. So delete task, and we are going to call the auth service delete task, and we're going to pass in the task ID and the user ID. So we also need to add body task ID, and then we need to say task ID, and task ID is going to be a number. Okay, now we get a red squiggly line because it doesn't exist in our auth service, so let's make it exist. So we're going to say async delete task, and we are going to be taking in a task ID, which is a number, and a user ID, which is a number. All right. So I'm not exactly sure if we're getting a user ID. I'm assuming that we are going to be returning the status, but I don't know what else we're returning. So I think I'm going to not worry too much about what's getting taken back. And I'm just going to say await this dot task service dot delete task. And I'm going to pass in the task ID and the user ID. Okay? And then we'll deal with what's returning to the front end, and what other functions we need in a little bit. But task service does not have this delete task, so we're going to go ahead and add it. Okay, so async delete task. We're going to pass in a task ID, which is a number, and then we're going to pass in a user ID, which is a number. Okay. All right. So now we first want to get the task we're going to delete. Okay, and we're actually going to use this exact thing. We're going to, right? Which implies, if we're copying and pasting a whole chunk, that what we want is actually this to be a function. All right, so we could go ahead and do that. We're not going to do that right now. That will be in our make it better portion of things, but just, you know, those are things to identify. Okay, so we're going to go get the task to delete, right, where the ID is the task ID and that the user matches the user ID, and then we want to bring the user story back with us. I'm pretty confident about that, but not completely sure. Okay, so then we are going to, let's do console log task to delete. And then let's just start there. All right, so now when I push on this, it should, yep, go ahead and say that it's deleting the ID. It's gonna delete the 27, task 1, status is to do, and then this is the user story associated with it. Nice, okay? So the next thing we want to do then is we want to delete it, okay? So we're gonna say this dot task repository dot delete, and then we're going to say task to delete. All right. But we are only going to do that if there's a task to delete. So we're going to say if task to delete. And again, we're rewriting code right now, so this would be a great part to refactor and make all of this a separate function. Okay, but we are not going to worry about it right now. Otherwise, we are going to, if there's no task to delete, we are going to throw a bad request exception and say you cannot delete that task. Okay, so we are going to say await this task.delete, and then we want to do a few different things. So I actually think what I want to do is I want to return my task to delete and the entire user story. And this is why. Because when I delete my task, okay, I want to update multiple things on this screen. Okay, I want to update the status here, and I also want to update my task list. So I need to go ahead and get both of those things. Okay, so I'm going to say const user story is equal to await this task service.delete task. All right, and then we are going to console log user story, and we're going to see if this works. Okay. I'm going to refresh my page because we're going to start getting issues. All right. So, and then I'm going to delete task 8. Okay. And my user story is returned. Okay. but this isn't exactly what I need because I also need the status. So I'm going to have to go ahead and do a little bit more of, effort before I go. Okay. But let's make sure it deleted. So that was task 8. All right, let's refresh the page. Let's go look. And task 8 is now deleted. Okay, so now at this point, we need to return the correct things to update the status and the task list. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to const story status is going to be equal to await this dot. Wow, I am typing really poorly. User story service dot get user story status by ID. So user story dot ID. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to return, and we're going to return an object where we're going to have story status. And then we are also going to have task list, which is going to be user story dot tasks. Okay. So I'm going to then go ahead and do that, and then console log on the front end to make sure, because we added the console log already, that we are doing the right object back. All right, so I'm going to delete task 7, which nothing's updating on the front, but we are getting the story status, but that is all. Okay. So let's go ahead and do console.log user story tasks. Okay. I'm going to reopen that so it's updated, and then let's delete undefined. Okay. So we want to make sure we are including. So let's just do user story. We want to see what we need to include in the query. All right, so user story just gives us the user story. So let's try. I'm not sure that's the right syntax, but we'll figure it out. All right, let's delete. All right, perfect. And it is the right syntax. Okay, so now we go ahead and we get all of our tasks back. But if you notice, we are getting 1 through 4, and we just deleted 4. So that is going to not be how we want to do it, okay? Because we're getting the user story tasks at the time before we deleted it, okay? So what we want to do instead is, all right, let's go ahead and get, okay, delete task 3. All right. So we actually probably do want to just return the user story dot ID. Okay, make it easy. So then we'll do user story ID here. And again, it's just a lot of guess and check. Okay, and ID. All right. So then we are going to do const task list is going to be equal to await dot this user. I could probably do it within the delete task. Okay, so then let's go ahead and let's do const task. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the perfect place to put this. Okay, let's just do simple first. So const task list. Let's do const updated user story. It's going to be equal to await this dot user story service dot get user story by ID. And then we're going to, we don't want just the status anymore, we just want the entire user story, and then we'll pass in the user story ID. And then this would be updated user story dot tasks. Okay, so now we have to add that to our user story service, which is going to be here, and we're going to say async get user story by ID. And again, we're starting to repeat ourselves here, so this could be a point of refactoring, right? And we want to return, okay, updated user story. Okay, where are we at? Get user story by I'm going to restart my server and see if that helps. Perfect. All right, I just did an update. Okay, so now I'm going to, let's make sure we have the right amount. I'm going to delete a task, and I'm going to get back a task list, which perfect only has one task in, which is task 1, and has the story status 0 out of 1. All right, so we are returning the correct information now that we need. So let's go back to our task box and let's figure out how we get that updated. Okay, so let's look. All right, we want to update something that's not on the task box, right? Because this is just going to give us one task. So we actually want to update on the user story details accordion, okay? And you'll see that we want to update the story status, okay? So we want to pass in set story status to our task box. So let's go down and, oh, we're already passing it in, perfect. So here we can say set story status, and we're going to say response.data.story status. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to add a few more tasks. Okay, let's add. All right, so now let's go ahead and delete one of these and see what happens. We're watching the status to see if that gets updated, and it does, yay. So now we just need to deal with our task list, okay? So we need to go back to user story details and take a look. So here we are mapping over our tasks. Let's go figure out where that gets set. So it looks like tasks just come in, okay, and then don't get edited. So we want to actually add that. So we want to say task list, set task list, use state tasks. Okay, then instead of mapping over tasks, we are going to map over task list. Okay, and then we need to pass in set task list is going to be equal to set task list. Okay, it's mad at us because we need to add that to our props, but that is easy enough. So we're going to go ahead and copy the type of our prop that we're passing in, and we're going to say set task list and then pass that in, and we are going to say set task list. Okay, So now when we delete our task, we're going to set the story, and then we're going to set the task list with response.data.task list. All right, so I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to reopen it. All right, we have 3 tasks. Let's delete one and see what happens. And whoop, whoop, now we have 2 tasks. Now we have 1 task. It's looking good. Let's add. Oh, well, that didn't look good. All right, so now we have a bug when we're creating, so we'll have to end the video here and we will update that. But we went ahead and we have all of these done. Okay, so I'm going to click done for all of them and move this over to done. And then in investigate, we're going to say bug, task create no longer works as expected. And we'll deal with that in the next video. All right, see you soon.